am now happy with the way that this kick, mid bass and sub sounds. I've gone through the different elements. I've gone, you know, low cut in it. I've made sure the sounds are distributed nicely in their pockets of their frequencies and stuff. You know, they're not clashing with each other, so I could almost like write this off now and say, right, this kick, mid bass and acid and sub are all sounding nice. So don't start messing with these again. You can do if you find that you need to tweak it a little bit when you bring in a new element, but try to get moving on, you know. So let's have a little look what we've got here now. The stabs. Let's put this stab channel in. Right, okay, so in here I've got this stab. Now, one thing I try to check as well, which I find is really important, when you're creating a track, and for example you're doing your kick and bass, and you know you've got some other sort of sounds, like it could be acids, it could be stabs. When it's just those few elements that you're working on, you're obviously trying to get those elements sounding as big as possible, you know, with the elements that are there. So, and I know I do it myself, is I start to go a little bit, I add a little bit of extra sort of like delay and reverb to sort of fill out that space. But, which is fine when you're doing it, but what you've got to remember is, once your track's then full of loads of different other elements, they're then filling that space. So you have to then tone down your effects and reverbs and stuff, because it can get a little bit messy. So just be aware, add them in as you work along, that's fine, but you don't then want 15, 20 different channels, all with heaps and heaps of effects and delays, because you haven't listened to them all together, if you know what I mean. So yeah, just what I'm probably going to do now is might tone down some of these stabs in this section. They might sound good on their own. Let's say, for example, you've got a kick, mid bass and sub, and then a stab. In that section, you don't want that stab to sound really dry, because there's not much else going on. You need to fill atmosphere. But if that's got heaps of reverb on that stab in that section, and then you go into a section where it's really busy with loads of other things going on, it's best to tone down the reverb and stuff. Again, each case is different. It all depends on what's playing and if they're clashing. If they're not clashing, that's totally fine. Leave it as it is. But it's good to be aware of that. So let's have a little listen. We've got this. Now, this is just reverb on this stab. If you want to go in and look, wow, I did this, why I did this, it's pretty much just reverb, because it's giving it that nice sort of atmosphere sort of call and response with this one. So I'm not going to go do too much with this one in the way of turning it down, because that is the actual effect. Let's have a little listen with the rest of them and see the kick, the mid bass. Now, what I'm just going to do again on this sound is I'm going to clean it up with the single band EQ again. Let's have a little listen. So I've done that on the actual bus. Oh no, I haven't, sorry. Let me get that on the actual bus this time. It's just easier to do it on the bus because, you know, or you can do it separately if you want, doesn't really matter. If you find, for example, you have a really low down sound, and then the rest of the bus is higher, sort of high mid sort of sounds, I'd suggest going and doing it sort of individually, because if you're then going to cut everything at 250, that low sound is going to suffer. You want that low sound to be low. The reason why it's low is because that's where it sits in the mix. So if you then go and put an EQ on it to accompany the high frequency sounds, and you're like, oh, the high frequency sounds aren't changing, but then you're losing all the low end in that other channel, it's best to do them separately. So let's just have a little listen and let's implement this, and let's see the sounds. So this is quite a low down sound, and this one as well. They're in pretty much the same frequency band. So I'm just going to do it inside the actual channel itself. Again, it's only taking away a little bit of that low end just to help that kick and the sub and stuff. Just a little bit taken away there. So going back to this older mixdown, so to speak, you can hear the difference in the boominess and the clarity already just through doing these few little things. So much more clear. So with the stabs, let's have a little listen to hear, see how they're sounding. Are they clashing with each other? Are they clashing with any of the other groups? Actually, let's just listen back to the acids. Now I like this sound, but it's a bit too in the center and it's sort of clashing with some of these acid sounds. Maybe it's not that, maybe it's this stab actually. Right, okay, so these are sort of hitting at the same sort of time. So one of them needs to move. What I'm going to do is, instead of using the direction mixer on this stab, I'm going to use the sample delay and see if I can move it. That's better. They've got a bit more separation between them there. So let's have a little listen again. Let's have a listen with the rest of the track. Right, great. So that's sounding nice now. Move on from that element. So I could probably put a little bit of, cut a little bit more of this away. Just making sure it's cleared up. Now, what I'm doing here, you know, I mentioned to you before about the different sounds looking like they're a little bit louder.